Hello, hello! I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors. My debut novel, Falling Through, is out now! Join Derek and his friends as they discover their superpowers, create a monster, and, as one does, get lost in time. In honor of my novel, which loosely falls in the urban fantasy genre, here are my 5 favorite urban fantasy tropes. Number 1. Science is magic and magic is real. The best part about telling or reading an urban fantasy story is the sensation that it takes place within our backyard. Anyone could trip and fall into the fantasy world existing within our own. Ever walk into a room, forget what you're doing, and stand there for a few moments trying to remember? According to urban fantasies, you witness something magical and your brain's only ability to rationalize it was to blank out. There is a 20-foot stretch on my regular walks with my dog where cell phone reception drops to almost nothing inexplicably. Were I in an urban fantasy story, that would mean that there is some kind of portal opening to the Fey world waiting to be discovered, or some magical going on where it's interfering with my electronics. Who knows? Maybe it isn't only trees getting in the way of the signal, but rather the thin veil of our world is breaking down, and all I need to do is reach out to enter a world of mystery, adventure, and danger. Number 2. Nerds know all. They might be an awkward best friend, or the one person on the street not losing their mind as a dragon attacks random people. Instead, they have a look of wonder as all they studied and believed to be myth or games turns out to be true. They are the one person organizing everyone into a defense or getting people to safety. This vindication is the best moment of their life, and it only gets better as the knowledge they cherish but never valued turns the tide to save the world. This does fall a bit into the wish fulfillment side in terms of my enjoyment, but who cares? I am too old for my Hogwarts letter and far too young for my 111th birthday party where I get to insult my friends, neighbors, and family before disappearing in front of their eyes. So I will live for my fellow nerd characters. For better or worse, D&D has infiltrated pop culture where shows and books will buy nerd credit by referencing it. Stranger Things pulled this off fantastically well, where each season boils down to a major confrontation with some monster from D&D. From the Demogorgon to the Mind Flayer to this most recent season where I'm not going to spoil anything. It has all been such a great love letter to nerd culture. If you're not caught up on season 4, pause this video, spend the day to watch all the feature-length episodes, and then come back here and finish it off. I'm not going to spoil anything else, and I'm going to stop talking about Stranger Things, but this season has been really well built and emotional, so now might be a good time to figure out a way to call in sick to work tomorrow so you can spend the entire day watching season 4. Number 3, grizzled investigators. These are a stand-in for readers who don't believe in fairies or magic. The characters will be a detective or a journalist or someone who is skeptical and grounded in reality. When the magic starts flying, they remain calm, relatively speaking. Then they take aim and shoot a rampaging ogre in the face. I don't usually like the noir storytelling associated with these grizzled investigators though. I find that too often it leads to chauvinistic tendencies filled with damsels in distress and uncomfortable sexual situations. I'm not saying that I'm squeamish when reading about sex in stories, it just feels very one-sided within these noirs where there might be a massive difference in age or some other way which makes it one-sided and completely irrelevant to the plot. Urban fantasies aren't immune to these various issues. However, I will say that I like a lot of them in spite of their sexist undertones, characters, and plots. For what it's worth, many modern urban fantasies have moved past these negative tendencies. Take the Dresden Files, which has evolved considerably from its earlier start where he had to stop a series of supernatural killings at a porn convention. Number 4, death doesn't mean dead. Here you get to have your cake and eat it too. When ghosts and zombies are prevalent, urban fantasies are free to tell a complete character arc that ends in a character's death. Then, wait a minute, the character returns to continue helping out their friend because even death can't stop them from being a good person. There was a great story, which I can't remember the name of, where the hero could see ghosts and he went around solving supernatural mysteries. Then his girlfriend died and, shockingly, they continued solving these supernatural mysteries, except now he's aided by his ghost girlfriend. One of my favorite anime series, Yu Yu Hakusho, begins by killing off its hero. That first episode was a near perfect 20 minutes of an emotional journey, and I encourage you all to check it out. Yusuke, the hero, is a punk and so rotten to his core that not even heaven would have predicted that he would throw himself in front of a car to protect a boy chasing his ball into the street. Spoiler alert, I will be doing a massive breakdown of Yu Yu Hakusho because it is a masterclass in how to tell a story. I have no idea when I'll get around to it, but that is one of my long-term goals for this channel. Anyways, that first episode is a gut punch of emotions as people Yusuke thought disregarded him actually cared deeply about him and fell apart at his funeral. From the teacher who believed he could always be better, to the fighting rival who only measured himself up against Yusuke, to the love interest who cared about him so much despite the world telling her not to. When done well, bringing someone back from the dead can tell a compelling story, and urban fantasies are the perfect mediums to do so, particularly because they often have mediums as characters. To paraphrase a line from Yu Yu Hakusho, anyone can inspire others by their death, but it takes someone truly special to inspire their friends by returning to life. And lastly, number 5, absurd reality. Basically, tonight's content was a love letter to the Dresden Files, and I can't wait for the next novel to come out. Checking my calendar. Sometime next year? Urban fantasies allow for absolutely absurd situations to take place in otherwise grounded stories, and I can't think of a better instance of this than in the Dresden Files. The absurd situation in question? Riding a dinosaur into a wizard battle in the middle of Chicago. I know, I bash Deus Ex Machina and random events all the time here. And yet, even though this was random, it felt inevitable in hindsight. The story so expertly crafted in the said dinosaur bones, as well as the fact that the older something is, the more magic it can contain. That means that the reanimated dinosaur is nearly unstoppable. So when you want to write an over-the-top battle, be sure to include those tiny, minute details throughout the story. That way, when you're showing us the dinosaur, we don't recognize that it is the dinosaur. I'll follow these over-the-top moments in stories with minimal prompting, thanks to how easily urban fantasies break reality. I'm ending this with an honorable mention for a bad urban fantasy trope, namely Fur vs. Fang. When a story amounts to nothing more than werewolves versus vampires, I find it boring. I'm okay with that going on in the background, but when that becomes the front and center plot, I feel it's overdone to death. Even that outlier of the Kate Beckinsale movie where they wanted to combine werewolves and vampires to create the ultimate being feels overdone. I like vampires, I like werewolves, I like stories with both werewolves and vampires. Except when it's all about preventing a werewolf versus vampire war. That is especially true when the werewolves are bad allegories for the poor working underclass, and the vampires are the rich ruling elite. There you have it, 5 fun urban fantasy tropes to write into our next stories. How many did I add into Falling Through? You'll have to read it to find out. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write. If you enjoyed my thoughts on urban fantasies, please raise the dead by pressing those like and subscribe buttons. Let me know in those comments about your favorite urban fantasy tropes and stories. Do you agree with my opinions, or is everything I said wrong? I post my running and writing progress on Instagram and Twitter as Running to Write, so be sure to follow me and join in with your own thoughts. Don't forget to sign up for the Running to Write monthly newsletter for regular updates on my story musings, pitfalls, and lessons learned. I also include relevant milestones in running and writing. See you next time. Until then, check behind every tree. You never know when a portal to another world is hiding right in front of our eyes.